Hi everybody, welcome to Saturday Live at the Backyard Bird Center. Today we are talking about one of the most amazing structures and adaptations in nature, and that is birds' bills. And so there's lots of questions and there's lots of different kinds, and I titled the program, Why Don't Birds Have Teeth? And that's so I think what I'll start is kind of the origin of the bill and take you through some of the misconceptions about bills and facts about them. So the bird bill, why don't birds have teeth? Well, birds did have teeth. From fossilized records, we know that early primitive birds did have teeth. But over time, they lost those teeth. And the bill or beak, that's another question. Is it bill or beak? Both are correct. In the scientific community, they usually use bill more often than they do beak. But so we're going to talk about bills. But yes, over time, birds lost teeth. And one of the reasons why, as I tell kids in the nature center world, in all those years I worked there, that if birds had teeth, then they would have to fly with their head down like this because they're so heavy. The bird teeth are very dense, very heavy. And when you're in the bird world, it's all about weight. They only have one kidney, they only have one ovary, they only have one, everything's about weight reduction. They have hollow bones, all these things are to make them lighter so they can fly, and the loss of teeth is another part of that evolution so that they can fly. So they don't have teeth, but they have structures that are adapted to, their individual lifestyles. The American white pelican on the screen behind me has one of the most the craziest bills in nature, and it's of course designed to scoop up food. Their fish catching method is to round in schools of fish all on the surface and dip that bill in the water, and then the water drains out and they have the fish that they want inside their bill so they can swallow them. So that's an example of a very specialized bill. And that's I kind of divide birds into two things. Either you're a specialist or you're a generalist. And this is an example of a specialized bill for a specialized lifestyle. An example of a real generalist would be the white-breasted nuthatch. That long pointed beak is good, or bill is good for a couple of different things. One, for probing, and like their lifestyle is going down and sticking that bill into the top parts of the bark in the tree, getting bugs and insect eggs from in there, those areas of the dig. But that bill is also nice and pointed and pretty stout for cracking things open. So what it does, you see him come to your bird feeder, he usually grabs a seed and eats safflower, which is a very hard seed. Even those, he'll take them, fly over to the tree trunk, and he'll wedge that seed in a piece in the bark, and then he'll hammer it with that bill, and he can open that seed up. So he is an example of a bird, a bill shape and style that is multifunctional. He can gather insects with it, he can catch insects with it, he can break seed open with it when he needs to. So you got generalist and specialist. What are the bird bills made of? There's something different. Right there, your fingernails. Very much the same material as your and my fingernails is what their bills are made of. So it's a lighter but strong material for them to be able to use and still not be so heavy so they can fly. So some of the classic questions I get in the bill world, of course, hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are the prime example of a misconception in bird bills. People think that they are straws and that they stick that bill into the flower and they think they actually suck up the nectar with it. That is not the case. And this is a pretty famous picture here. Had it here years at the store, and hopefully you can see this tongue sticking out to here, and the bill stops here. So the tongue is actually longer than the bill. So the bill of a hummingbird is actually a vessel for it to be able to stick into the flower to a depth that the tongue is still protected, but can go down and lick the nectar, get the nectar it needs, and brings it back in there. The tongue's another whole another conversation, how specialized they are. But they don't suck like a straw. No, birds don't do that. Birds typically, the only ones who we know that actually can do that with water are like the dove group. The dove can actually just stick their bill down, and they can actually draw water like a straw with their bills. But most birds have to dip. If you watch them at your bird bat, they have to dip their bill in the water, and you see them raise their head and tilt their head back so that the water is, gravity takes it down to where it needs to be inside their body. So hummingbirds are a misconception of their bills, but so that's a classic bill type. Oh, cardinals, America's favorite songbird. Look at the size of that bill, and it is very strong. This is your nutcracker from your drawer in your kitchen. These birds can crack open just about any seed here in North America. They are extremely strong. And I know Ruth's going to shake her head at this. When we're bird banding birds, there's not a more dreaded bird to get out of the net than this guy. Because man, they can inflict some pain if they get a flap of skin on your hands whenever you're taking them out of a bird net to band them. So yeah, that bill is very strong and they're capable of cracking open seeds. How about the woodpeckers? That's another bird that we get a lot of questions about their bills. This is the red-bellied woodpecker, and it's a good stout bill, and obviously they use it to drum and excavate cavities, but they also use it to probe back into crevices in the wood to get the insects and the insect eggs and things like that, and the sleeping insects in the winter that are trying to survive the winter and deep into the bark of a tree. They have a very long tongue as well. I've got another picture of another woodpecker. Well, I did. Oh, there it is. There it is, right there in front of me. Okay, the flicker. The flicker is using its tongue to dart in and out of the little holes of this finch feeder and get little tiny fine sunflower chips out of there. Another nickname for the flicker is the antbird, because they spend a lot of time on the ground using that long tongue to dart back into ant hills. Their tongues are barbed to get those out of there, but that stout bill, they can actually move dirt out of the way if they need to, or move bark. One of the coolest adaptations of woodpeckers, I think, is they actually have modified feathers that cover their nostrils so that when they're chopping wood, the wood chips don't fall down inside their nose, which is really, really cool. So another bill modification. I get asked a lot, why don't woodpeckers get headaches from hammering on the wood? Well, the bottom bill is a little bit longer than the top bill, and the bottom bill is not firmly connected to the skull, so it can actually absorb quite a bit of the vibration whenever it's hammering, so that the top bill is not getting as much impact, so the head is not shaking as badly as the bottom bill is. Pretty cool modification with the woodpeckers. But there's some tremendous birds in nature. One of the coolest adaptation is the double-crested cormorant. Birds in this group that catch slippery fish, their bills are actually serrated. So if you were to run your thumb or your finger over the edges of the bills of a cormorant, it would be really rough because they're serrated to holding on to those slippery fish that when it dives down into the water. If you've seen nature specials like over in the Philippines where they fish with the cormorants, they actually catch these birds, keep them in captivity, and they put harnesses around their legs and they send them down, they catch fish and bring them back, and then they get the fish from out of make them throw up the fish, and so they use them as a fishing method over there. And part of it is because they're so good at hanging on to those slippery fish because of that serrated bill, which is really cool. And then I know everybody has seen the herons and the egrets walking around, hunting, darting their bill quickly down into the water and come up with a frog, or down in Texas, a crab or a fish, or shallow water creatures like that. Well, one of the coolest adaptations they have is when it comes to zeroing in on a fish or a crawdad or a frog is their bills are actually grooved so that their eyes, you see how his eye is pointing down? So they're grooved on either side. So he is actually seeing like a gunsight. So he is looking down his bill right through those grooves at the target, and he's able to reach in and grab it. So it's an incredible adaptation for these guys. So there's so many examples. I'm going to do a couple more, but the bird bills are just fascinating. I didn't know this till just a few years ago. A lot of the shorebirds, like this dowitcher, you think that bill is made for probing deep in the mud and grabbing worms and aquatic invertebrates and things like that are down in the mud. But until a few years ago, and I don't know how long they've known this, but actually the tips of these bills can actually move. So it's flexible, so they can grab hold of. And I'm not talking about opening their mouth like that. I'm talking about just the tip of the bill, so it can actually get hold of and actually pull things open, to pull back out worms and stuff out of the mud. So they're incredible adaptations. Now, when you're a predator and you can't use a knife and a fork and to get the meat off the bones of what you catch, you need a very sharp, a nice hook on the end of your bill. And the birds of prey, this is a red-tailed hawk, once it's caught its prey, like a small mouse or a rabbit or something like that, it can use that bill to penetrate the skin of the mammal that it caught, or even a bird. Then they can pull on it and pull the meat and rip the meat with the sharp bill, and also that sharp edge for that. So you don't have hands, you don't have feet to hold on to things, to tear things with. The bill has to do all the work. And you can see all these different lifestyles and all these different birds that are here, the variation, and there's so many more you could talk about, but it's cool. They do not have teeth. They have lots and lots of lifestyles they have to adapt to, and the bill is very much the part of the life that they lead. So it's a pretty cool idea for a program. Thanks for that. And send in more ideas, if you will, because we want to talk about what you want us to talk about. So if you like the videos, please give them a like, share them with your friends and family. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Until then, come on, let's talk birds.